Alrighty, guys. Everybody ready? Does everybody have the Facebook files? There's a website workshop number 2 under files on the Class of 17 page. Sweet. So thanks everyone for coming. This is going to be pretty short. I just have a few things about Sketch that I think might be helpful, especially because I think Nelson was saying that we're supposed to have kind of like a whole like kit that we put together. So like have all of our different assets that we reuse. So I'll show you how to do that. And then also I know that some people have contact forms. So we can go over how you would make a working contact form, which is post-Macaw. So yeah. And then if there's any other things you guys generally want to hear about, actually, if there are general things, like does anybody have stuff that they want to hear about with Sketch or code?
Okay, so you want like to have it tint over, and then when you hover over it, it like dissipates. That's coding?
It's gonna be coding, yeah. Anchor points? Yeah, okay. That's a harder one, but okay. It's a good one. It's a good one. Gallery? What part do you mean by that? Like the grid gallery or like a... Oh, like scroll through. Getting fancy. Okay. Chart. Okay, and then if anything else comes up, we can just go over that as well. Yeah, if you guys weren't here the last time and you want to learn like more about code, check out the notes in the video from the first workshop, which are on Facebook. I'm not really going to talk about like how to generally code today, so just go look at that if you're interested. Okay, so if you go ahead and look at the files from the Dropbox link, there's a symbol demo file that you can open with Sketch. This is just something super basic I threw together this morning that'll kind of teach you like what symbols are, and then also there's these things called text styles. So this is just kind of a demo to get you started with that. So as you can see, this is a gray box. It's also a symbol in Sketch. What that means is that basically everything you put inside of this folder will be repeated every time you use the symbol. So that's kind of confusing, but I'll get into that. Notice that this is the name of the group, just like you would have in Photoshop. It's like a folder, and then these are your sublayers. And then if you click on the folder or the symbol, this is what it's attached to, is the gray box. And this is where all of your symbols will show up. If you wanted to organize the symbols, so change the name, delete a symbol, something like that, you can go to Organize Symbols. And then you see all of your options again. You can double click and then rename it whatever you want. Or you can delete them right here. You'll also see layer styles and text styles, which I'll get into in a little bit. And I'll also show you like why this is actually important. Obviously, you're not just going to need to create gray boxes that all look like gray boxes. So I'll show you that as well. But getting a little bit more complex, here's our gray box 2, which is a separate symbol from this one. If you click over here, right, gray box 2. And if you go ahead and open the folder, you'll notice that we have text inside of it. And then if you look here, right, the text style 1, this is going to be the attributes that just that text has, which again is confusing right now, but I'll get into that. Just know that, again, to check what symbol or what text style something has, you can click on the layer and then go to that drop down, and you can either choose an already existing one, you can create a new text style, organize your already made ones, or just assign no text style. And anytime you update a text style, so every time you use the same thing, I'll show you. If you change it once, it changes everywhere. This is also text style 1, and when I change that color, it'll be reflected in every place that I use text style 1. And this is kind of like the basis of why symbols and text styles are so useful. Also, if you look at the bottom example here, you'll notice that this is actually exactly the same as this one. But if you try resizing it, you'll notice that similarly to the text styles, symbols also react. So when you change the same symbol in one place, it does the same thing to every other instance of the symbol.
So is that text an outline, or is that still workable text?
This is still workable text.
So when you scale it, it changes the font size.
Yep. And then you can also, like, if you wanted to make this whole thing bigger, but then make this text smaller, you could do that. And then because these are linked, right, these text styles are both the same, it'll update those for you as well. This helps a lot when you're doing your mockups, or if you have components that you reuse, so that your consistency is on point.
Can you go back in after you create, say you've made all of your navigation, and you want to create that as a style, can you highlight all of them and create the style of that?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, so it works like going backwards as well. You don't have to make it from the ground up. So if you had like home, about, contact, right? You could create a new text style. So we'll name this one navigation. And now we have a new text style. So every time we use that, let's say we like this light gray. So then every time you have something with the navigation style on, it'll be the same color, the same size, font, the weight, everything. Sweet. And then I already talked about this, but when you change it once, it changes everywhere, right? No matter if it's just standalone as text or if it's inside of a group. So, right, if we change this text over here, which is not inside of a symbol, it'll still update over here since it's using the same text style. Does anyone have questions about that? That's a good question. If you go ahead and open, this is going to be a link. Wait, not that one. This one. The Sketch Foundation Kit. This is purely an example of why you'd use it. You shouldn't just like copy paste this stuff for your own work. So if you look at this, everything here is a symbol. So you have all of your forms as symbols, right, which contain groups and other stuff inside of them. These can be, if you look here, right, this is going to be one color, and you can just reuse that for every time you have a similar element. So it just saves time and makes things more consistent. And especially when you're talking about a large-scale project, this is incredibly important because it's super easy to become inconsistent and have colors that are just like slightly off or sizes that are a little janky. So this just like is a way to make managing that easier, and it just makes your consistency a lot better to manage. So
So when you're making your symbols, as far as like organization-wise, like is it up to you, or should you organize like, oh, this is all for like a button, or this is all for that, or is it?
that's totally up to you. But one thing that's really nice about symbols in Sketch is that if you're like me and you like to organize stuff a lot, what's cool is you can have, so if you have like forms, right? Forms is like a general component that you want to create. You can, let's see. Just go ahead and create a super quick symbol. Group it. Make it a symbol. Name it. So here's where the naming conventions come in. So if this is a form, right? I can create like a category named form, and then if you do a space and then a slash, it'll essentially create a drop down for you. So you can have form, and then this is like basic input. So what happens is when you select from them, if you go insert symbol form, you'll now notice that there's like a group so that you can organize things as different like general components. So if I made another thing, we can have like a big text box. And then again, form is the general category, and then comment box can be the sub. Then again, if you go to insert symbol form, then you now have two things in here. And you can just like, I think you can just do that as many times as you want, so it can just drill down like forever. But I'd say like more than 3 is going to be kind of ridiculous. So don't do more than 3 categories, or else you're gonna hate yourself. Yeah, does that make sense? Okay. Yeah, and then if you guys just want to take like 5 minutes and read through the instructions on this one, so go through, make this whole thing a symbol, and then make these 2 texts have their own text style. So go ahead and do that, and then try duplicating it. You can hold Option and then drag it to create a duplicate, and then just change something once and watch how it changes on the other one. So, but if you do this, and a common thing that'll happen is these will be the same styles, but you want the text to be different in each one. What you can do is there's this little checkbox right here called exclude text value from symbol. So if you go ahead and click that, and then these are linked, right? So if I changed it once, it would change here. But since I've clicked the exclude from symbol, if I change this to blueberries, then you'll notice that it's separate, but it still has the same styling. And then I can still change the text color, and it will reflect it on the other ones, but the text itself will change. Also, as like a super basic, just like sketch thing, if you hold Command or Control on a PC, and then not on a PC, yeah, that. Just kidding. It's a good joke. If you press Command, hold Command, and then click on a layer, that will go directly to the layer. So instead of you having to like double click and then like keep going through different folders, just hold Command and then you go right to it.
Are you saying control or just command and then?
Command and then click. So like hold Command and then click on it. That's pretty much everything about Sketch, just to like get you started. Does everyone figured out how to do that? Get the exclude the symbol and have the text different and stuff? Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So what's the difference with like creating these symbols and then like choosing some of the different groups and all this?
So symbols are groups,
Yeah, that's like
but it just like updates them everywhere for you. So like, yeah, if you had like a bunch of groups that were the same thing, right? That's where like symbols come in. Is if you have this thing, right, and this is your group, right? Here's your group. If you duplicate that a few times and then change the text once, that might be fine. But then if you wanted to change the color on this, it's not going to do that for the other ones. So sometimes that could be what you want, but a lot of the time it's not. Because like it makes the consistency a lot harder to manage, basically. Because like if you have, so this is groups, right? Let's do it with symbols instead. So again, to make it into a symbol, you just take your group and then hit create symbol. Choose what name you want it to have. Duplicate it. And then it updates every time.
So like the difference with like the symbols, I know you can make textiles and stuff and that'll apply to it, but with the symbols like it actually changes like the shape.
Everything. Yeah. Yep. So if you guys go ahead and look at the PHP contact form link, which is in the Dropbox folder, it'll take you to GitHub. Welcome to GitHub. I'm not going to teach you how to use GitHub because that's a whole nother thing. But just go ahead and click the download zip button on the right hand side. And then you'll see all of these files. Yeah. And then download zip. And then you should see all the files, like five files. Huh? And you're actually only going to need 2 of these. So unless you're using WordPress for your site, which you probably aren't, at least right now, you can just delete everything except for the contact.php and the sendform.php files. If you in the Dropbox folder, click on PHP contact form. And then if you have Sublime Text or any kind of text editor, you'll be able to see what's going on here. If not, just I guess go look up Sublime Text. Sublime Text. Download that, and then you'll be able to open these. Huh? Yeah, so you can open the folder. Yeah. Huh? How did I get the folder? So on GitHub, right? Click download zip on the right side. Yeah. And then you're going to see a bunch of like code that doesn't probably make sense to you right now, but that's okay. Huh? Yeah. So depending on what parts you want to have for your form, this form just comes with email, name, and message. If you want to add more stuff, you can, but there's going to be some loops you're going to have to jump through. So we can just talk about that afterwards. But for the purposes of this, we're just going to chill with this. So if you open up the contact.php file, you should see a bunch of like text stuff. Everybody there? The contact.php. And if you don't have like Sublime or something and it looks terrible on your screen, you can just look up here and then I'll just point out stuff. So there's a lot of it that you don't really need to pay attention to right now. There's a thing called a function, which is going to be sending our email. And by the way, how this works is the user goes to your site, right? Goes to the contact page, fills out their information, clicks send, and then in the background, it'll send it to the database, and then that'll send you an email. So you get an email that somebody contacted you. So that's what this will do for you. If you start to scroll down the page, you have these different variables, which are just, all they're doing is they're going to grab the name, email, and message that the user typed in. And then in this section, it's just going to check basically to make sure that whatever they typed is not empty. So like they actually typed something in. Yeah. Yep. And so anytime those are left blank, it'll give you a pop-up that says one of these things. So if the name is blank, then show a pop-up that says, sorry, we didn't catch your name. And then all this is doing is it's going to focus the form, which just means like it like highlights the form, so it tells you to go back. So I think I actually have this. This is on my site too. So if you type in a name, but there's no email or message, and you click submit, it says, how can I email you? Because you didn't put anything in. And then it'll focus on whatever you didn't type in automatically. So again, that pop-up is alert. So whatever you have in here is what you're going to see, right? So if I fill out everything except for the message, it'll give you some more sass. And you can choose how sassy you want to make it. That's totally up to you. And then you just then you have a bunch of other shit that like you don't need to worry about. But this is what's going to be different if you do want to have more stuff than just name, email, and a message. Is basically you'd have to you just add some more variables. So you could have like a phone number, stuff like that. So this is foundation essentially. So right here, right, we have the large 6 columns, and so that's why it's centered, stuff like that. And so like the styling and how it looks is not going to be in these files. That'll be up to you. But yeah, then again, this is just grabbing the value that the user typed in. So whatever they typed in for email, grab that. Whatever their name was, let's get that. And then same thing with message. And then down here, you'll see the HTML part. So the HTML is what the user will actually see. Right? So like if you look at the page, we have name, and then we have this input box, right? We have email, and then an email input box, which is this. Input type equals email. Then we have the comment, and the comment box. And then lastly, we have the submit button. And then, and then if you want to use, if you're using Foundation, so if you already watched the video from the last workshop, you can just uncomment this whole section and use this instead, and it'll give you some styling automatically. And then jQuery is just a JavaScript thing that'll allow us to send the form. You don't even have to think about it. And then if you go ahead and open up the sendform.php file, this is the one that you're mainly going to have to edit. So you're just going to go ahead and type in things. So whenever there's a capitalized section, that's something that you need to change. So the to is who you want the email to go to. If you want to have it go to your main email account and another email account, you can just do comma and add another one. If not, you can just delete it, and then there's only one. The subject is what the email is going to say when you receive it. So you can have contact form submitted and then whatever your site's called. And then leave this part alone. This is, again, it's just grabbing whatever the user typed in. And then the HTML email message part is what you're going to see in the email. So it's going to say contact information. It'll say the person's name. It'll say their email, and it'll say their message. And then this stuff you don't need to change. And then this is up to you. You don't have to change it, but you can have like a no reply email if you want. And then lastly, just change this to your email, and that's all you have to change. Huh? Yeah, the mail one. Yeah, and if you look at the comments, so the comments are the things next to the slashes, which basically means it's just a note to you. It's not actually code. That will kind of walk you through what you need to change, so that it's not like you're going to break everything. So it kind of just tells you what's happening as well. And yeah. So once you've filled that out and like completed everything with your own information, the process then, in my case, I'm not going to save it, but you should, is you'd go back to wherever those files are, and you'd bring both of these files. So you'd select both of your files, and then bring them to wherever your Macaw site is. So put those in the same folder. So right, I just drag mine into here. I don't want to do that, but yeah. And then once they're in the same folder, then you're going to be pretty much good to go. If you try to open the files like with your browser, it's not going to work though. The reason being because PHP, so that's what the file extension is, it's a server-side language. All that means is that you have to be running it on a server. So because everyone has a server, that's not a problem. So you can just upload it through your FTP, and then you'll be able to access it and it'll work. But unfortunately, you won't be able to like locally see how it works. Yeah. This is probably going to be the last step for your websites, unless you're coding it, because I'm not sure if Macaw will like override this stuff. I'm not sure what's going to happen with that. So yeah, I'd say just like finish your designs as much as you can in Macaw, and then we'll forget about Macaw and make things happen with PHP and code. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's seriously going to be as easy as like copy and paste of this code that you have in here and filling it in. So yeah. And if anyone's like if anyone's already done with their Macaw stuff, which I doubt, or when you do finish, let me know, and then I'll help you like integrate it. And then yeah, and then I can show you what the final result will look like. So and then if I go ahead and submit, it'll give me this message, right? The message is configurable. If you, let's see, I think it was in the contact.php file. Yeah. So if you change this, you can change what it says when it sends it. It's just the little things, you know. Yeah, so then it sends the message, and then let's check the email. Then we can see, here's the name, here's the email, and here's the message. And then this is the title that we wrote in as well. Okay, overlays. I'll talk about overlays a little bit. Again, overlays are something you probably can't do without coding. So finish your Macaw stuff first, and then that'll be like a finishing touch, like a CSS overlay on hover. Sweet, someone's already done it for us. So this is like the hover overlay that a lot of people, I think, were looking for, right? Yeah, so that could be whatever you want. This could be text, this could be nothing. That's up to you. But all I did was, if you look up CSS image overlay on hover, or just super like straightforward things like that, there's a lot of people who've already like done the work for you that you can just use the code.
So you just do the same thing, like say we have like the same file, you just drag it into a
Pretty much. In Macaw, no.
You just how would we integrate this into our design?
So what'll happen is, like with Macaw, you'll have your folder with some files in it. And then what'll happen is you just copy like this HTML into your existing content and potentially replace it in some instances. And then you just add the CSS and it'll just work. So let's see. So here's the overlay, it looks like. So background, we could do and that can be, this can be any, it can be like a hex number. There's like red, white, black, like basic things. Yeah, so that can, I mean, it can be whatever you want. Yeah, so opacity is right here. So that's what the 0.75 is. So if we have it as 1, right, that's going to be 100%. So if we want to keep it 100, we can just do that. But if we don't, then that works too. And then you can also customize like the transition. So, you know, how fast you want it to transition into the background color. You know, if you want it to be slower, do this. And how animations work is basically you design like the frame 1 and then frame 2, and then frame 2 things will have changed. So like if in frame 1 if this is 1, right, and then this is 2, maybe the background color changes, the border is teal, right? And then like it, I don't know, it rotates or something. That's kind of how you'd conceptualize CSS animations. So, right, so here's going to be frame 1, and then when you hover over it, or you do your action, then what changes? In this case, the opacity changes from being hidden, right? The overlay is hidden, but then on hover, the opacity is 1, so then it shows that element. Yeah. So, right. So with this, in this case, it would start out dark, and then when you hover over it, you could see it, right? So we change the hover event to being opacity 0, so it's going to hide it. And then just basic, like when it's not being hovered, the opacity is going to be 1. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, what's cool is you could also do, I mean, there's so many things that you can animate between. But if you wanted to, you can do a rotate. What is it? Rotate 3D CSS. And again, like, seriously, Google will be your best friend. Because you can't remember everything. There's just no way. And then it's going to be X, Y, and then the degree we want to rotate it. So it's going to be a little hard in this case because it's rotating a strange object. So like, for example, let's just do it when you hover over the box. So when you hover over the box, this should be this. Let's see what this changes. Bam, right? And then if we want, yeah, but all I changed is like, I didn't want, because you can't really rotate that overlay box because like it's inside of something else. So instead I'm rotating the box itself. And then if you wanted to animate that, you can do this thing right here and change that from, you could do all instead of just opacity. So that means that everything that changes will be animated. So in this case, the opacity changes and the rotation changes. Theoretically. Okay, we might have to set the, oh, yeah, it's not the overlay. In this case, it's the box. Yeah, so you have a bunch of different options. You have like, you could do ease in, ease out. You could do just ease in, you could do just ease out. You can do, let's see, transition. This is really useful for like testing little things, right? Like if I wanted to just test an animation, then I could test it here and then bring it into my full project. But yeah, I mean, like there's so many like fun things you can easily do. Yeah, you should just like make your entire web page rotate. Let's see if we can. I want to get my web page to rotate when I hover it. Um, Okay, so the next thing is anchor points. Or, wait, no, what are they called? They're not breakpoints. So let's see how you do breakpoints with not Macaw. So this is kind of just like the basis of it. Is you define that only on screen devices this is going to take effect. And then you essentially define the range. So between this many pixels and this many pixels, you want it to look a certain way. So it's just like breakpoints, right? So this would be between 320 pixels wide to 480 pixels wide, which is going to be a small like iPhone. You'd have certain styles. And then for a bigger device, like a laptop, you'd have between, and again, you can like change what this is. So it could be the exact same as Macaw, right? So this could be, what is it, like 10, is it like 1,000 in Macaw by default? Anyway, it'd be this to whatever maximum size you want it to be. I mean, it's like between these ranges, do something. That's all it's saying. And it's the same concept of a breakpoint, right? So you can define each size will have, like, the styles will change a little bit. So
So I don't think I'm understanding. If you have a lot of things happening at a break, are you having to define this every step? You are.
yeah, and that's why doing the whole like mobile first design is going to be a lot easier, because instead of instead of creating new elements with CSS when you go up, instead you just write one line that says hide the element. So an example of that. So let's first just like make the super basic stuff. So we'll say the smallest size is going to be 1,000 pixels wide, and then it can go, we don't even need to have a max width. It can be just like to infinity.
So just after 1,000.
Yeah. So, and then here you can define the pixel ratio. So if it's a Retina device, it'll be 2, because it's twice as many pixels.
What if you're designing for both?
Designing for both, then just don't even talk about it. So if we just add some comments, say this is for desktops and up. So now everything that's inside of here is going to be classes that are only shown on desktop. So go away. Okay, and then go ahead and create the container element, right, in the HTML. And then just, I said I wasn't going to talk about CSS, but I guess I am. So just like some simple definition stuff. Background color is literally the background color of the object. And then the color is referring to the text color. So in this case, we can't see it because it defaults to black. And if we have a black background, then we can't see it. So we could just do white, and then it'll show up.
What if the background's blue?
Huh?
What if the background's not a color, it's blue?
Yeah, so what you could do then is you could do background or background image, and then it'd be URL, and then just the URL would go here. Like, and then that's an image back here. Right?
So that's why you're saying you develop your code for mobile first. So that way when you go any larger, you're just adding and saying add this CSS style.
Yeah, let me try to make that more clear. Because, so generally like what happens is, if we start from the smallest size, right, let's see, how does it generally work? Okay, how you can do it is the smallest size, you're just going to assume that's like what everything's going to be based off of. So when you're making the site, you should just shrink everything down to about that size and then design the elements like that. So in this case, right, the container is going to be like this. Let's say it's 320 pixels, just like the screen size. And then the height, 100 VH is just 100% vertical height. And then has this background image, color is white. But then, so we don't have to define the media query for that. So media query is a breakpoint. So we don't have to define the breakpoint for it because that's the basic breakpoint. What we're going to do is we're going to have breakpoints that are for the bigger screens. So basically, we're going to be reusing this content, but we're just going to change it slightly on a bigger screen to make it like fit better, right? So, for example, if the minimum device width, here, let's see. So Foundation already has this all easy for you. In Foundation, all you have to do is like write this, so small devices and bigger, and then it would just do the code for you. But in this case, we don't have our own defined breakpoints, so we're gonna have to do that. So the same thing though. If we go ahead and type this in here, this is going to be for medium devices and up.
This is just directly below where you had the
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, I wish this was like bigger. The area, but whatever. So now what we're going to do is say on the medium devices. So right now, if we take a look at it, this content should only be 320 pixels wide, right? Because we've defined the width up here. Anything that's bigger than this and taller than this, let's hide that. Overflow, hidden. Right, exactly. So if we look at this, that's 320 pixels. But let's say at this size, right, we want it to be 100%. So it's as wide as the content. Or 100, well, not 100%. That's a little more work, but let's say it's 600 pixels wide now instead of 320.
So that would be great.
Right. So width is going to be 600 pixels. So now we're saying when the minimum device width is, imagine that this says 600, or imagine that this is like the medium breakpoint that you defined in Macaw. At that breakpoint, then change the container, change the width of it to be this. But keep the same styles otherwise. So it'll have the same background image, the same height, the same color, and the same overflow. That'll still be there.
So from 320 to 599, which is going to be when we get that 600, it's going to flip.
Right. And you can change, like if you wanted something else to happen, you could add that as well. If you remember from the last workshop, the concept of like the computer reads code from top to bottom, and then if you wanted to override something, right, you do it below it. No, below it overrides because it reads from top to bottom. So the last thing it reads will override what it read before. So like if you read a book now, that doesn't actually work, but it could theoretically replace information you had before.
So that's why you put your generic style sheet at the top. So then I'll be able
To get more specific, yeah. So let's see. Let's just change this to right? So see how it changes right there? If we instead wanted it to like not be there when we get to that point, we could do width 0, we could do display none, so don't display it. We could do opacity 0. There's slight subtle differences. This will actually like delete the layer almost, whereas opacity will just hide it. So it'll actually be here still. So like if it was a link, you could still hover over it, which would be kind of weird, but it still exists. It's just like hidden behind the curtain. So it could still link to something. The link would still be active. You just wouldn't see it. But with display none, it's gonna hide it completely. So let's say in this case, when it gets to our 500 pixel width breakpoint, then the background is going to be black. Otherwise, the mobile size, right, is going to be we had an image that says 300 by 300 on it. So that you can see the difference, right, when it hits that breakpoint. So that's kind of the same concept you'd apply, just at a bigger scale. And that's why you do it mobile first, is so that you write it once, you write out all of your styles, and then you just kind of adapt things. Like this might be all that I have to change when it's at a bigger size. Like the width could be bigger, or the background color could be different, but you don't have to rewrite this stuff necessarily.
So when people are talking about mobile first, they're not talking about like on Sketch and design.
It's kind of both. The only place it really matters is coding, but designers, why not? They can design mobile first too. Everyone can join in on the fun.